Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please?
Reporting live and direct, this the briefing room. I got a nice firm grip on a sweeping room, revealing dirt.
All right, everybody, welcome to the briefing room as I rock out to the theme song by George Morgan III, aka Buddy Love, the briefing room. I want to dive right into this because obviously we didn't say anything about everything last week, and I'll give you a reason for that, but we want to start with our questions. Let me go to the front row over here. You with the first question.
Things are moving pretty quickly in the news cycle. We never got a statement from you about the assassination attempt. Can you comment on that?
All right, that's exactly where I thought we were going with this. First, let me say this. There were 3 people shot at this assassination attempt, and I'm anxious to get into the Kamala Harris conversation and the Joe Biden conversation. It's kind of an I told you so moment if you listen to the first installment of the briefing room. But I want to acknowledge the fact that in that shooting in Butler, PA, David Dutch, 57 years old, and James Copenhaver, 74, were both shot during that assassination attempt on President Trump, former President Trump. Our thoughts and prayers are with their families, but most of all, 50-year-old former firefighter from the Buffalo area, Corey Comparator. He was shot and killed trying to protect his family. Doesn't matter who you're voting for, DR, independent. This is humanity we're talking about. And so no matter what your opinion of the candidate is, this man should be here with his family to this very second. And so our thoughts and prayers go out to him. The shooter, this 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks. Ladies and gentlemen, this does not feel like a planned shooting. I know they said he flew drones over the site. There was some light research done. He's looking up things about Biden on the internet. He's looking up things about Trump on the internet. I'm stuck on the fact that when they scrubbed this young man's phone, again, 20 years old, they scrubbed this young man's phone and did not find anything of value on this 20-year-old's smartphone. Think about that. Looking up Biden information and Trump information is one thing. But if you want to take the step of trying to take out a president of the United States of America, supposedly or seemingly on your own, a whole lot of planning goes into a decision like that. And something has to internally rally you to the point that you feel that compelled to do something that you know will live on in infamy. And the fact that there was nothing in this young man's social media that really jumped out at people, I find suspicious. You don't have to be a part of MAGA to say something just does not seem right about the way this whole thing played out. A lot of parts of this assassination attempt are problematic. You mean to tell me less than 200 yards away, there is a rooftop that has a clear line of sight to the former president of the United States, who is the most controversial president of our time, potentially of all time. He's holding a rally outdoors, and there are all kinds of things that he has encouraged or lobbied for from a government standpoint, all kinds of things that he's done and said that have really gotten under the skin of the masses in various ways. You mean to tell me somebody within 200 yards was able to crawl to a rooftop and put him in their crosshairs at a public rally when the Secret Service is guarding this man? Their response was, well, Butler police were in charge of that area. Give me the fuck out. How is that the case? I think we've gotten so accustomed to former President Trump saying and doing crazy shit that we forget if there ever was a president or a former president that you would have to double down on potential assassination attempts, it would be Trump. For obvious reasons. Who hasn't he pissed off? If you're old enough to remember who shot JR, this is like that. You did not secure the perimeter for this man. That is suspect. What was also suspect to me, that even after the shot was fired, you duck down, he ducks down, they cover him as customary for Secret Service agents. When they finally let him up, when supposedly the coast was clear, is it a lone gunman? We don't know. Even when you look back at the 9/11 attempt, it wasn't a gun. The airplanes were weaponized. One plane hits, and not too long afterwards, a second plane hits. And so when there is a gunman, The logical question is there a second gunman? You don't know. And so we're so busy bragging about the photo where Trump holds his fist up in defiance, not realizing that was some dumbass shit when it comes to the Secret Service, because even when he's in your custody, he is still at risk of a kill shot. They counted out 7 to 9 seconds when Trump's head and face is completely visible. And so if there's a second gunman anywhere in the vicinity, he still could have took Trump out while he was in the active possession of the Secret Service. That is problematic. And so it is an iconic photo. I know that people are going to rally behind it. The minute I saw it, I said, yep, that one will live on. But the opportunity should have never been there. Now, his political instinct, to Trump's credit, for him to have the awareness in that moment to say, you know what, fuck that. Hold on, give me some space. Let me get my head, fight. He's thinking about his base. He's thinking about trying to use this moment to his advantage. And considering that somebody just tried to kill him, you got to give credit where credit is due. You talk about awareness. But the point is, from a security standpoint, he should have never had the opportunity to do that, not for political purposes, forget that, for security purposes. Well, give me a minute, I want to put my head in my fist up. No, Mr. President, no, man, get your ass on the ground. No, we're not letting you get up. We're not letting you throw a fist. We're not letting you yell, fight. We don't know if there's another gunman. There could be a gunman in the audience as far as we know. When Malcolm X was assassinated, the gunman made his way to the front row. So there could have been somebody right there amongst Trump. Was somebody sitting on the stage behind Trump a part of the conspiracy? You don't know. So the fact that you let him up and you let him do what he had to do to get his little photo op, I'm not mad at him because he did what politicians do. I'm mad at the fact that you, the ones charged with protecting his ass, didn't do your job. Again, let's take the D and the R out of it. We just looking at, because if this was a candidate that you had an appreciation for or that you were voting for, you'd be saying the same thing. And so at the end of the day, you want the Secret Service to do their job no matter who they're doing their job for. That's the way it's supposed to work. And so to me, all of this is legitimate fodder for conspiracy. You had the gunman on the rooftop behind you who took the sniper out rather quickly. You couldn't man all the rooftops? That made zero sense to me. Here's what I want you to think about, though. I want President Trump to really consider something. He now has something in common with Biggie and Tupac. I know you're probably thinking, how does all that go together? It dawned on everybody that they're worth more dead than alive. Biggie had his issues with being on Bad Boy. Him and P. Diddy weren't seeing eye to eye before he was shot. Now, I'm not saying P. Diddy did it or had somebody do it, but I'm just saying everybody knows that Suge Knight was in the process of losing Tupac when he got killed. Ron DeSantis, I want y'all to hear this clearly, found out the hard way. You cannot run against Trump as a Republican, especially if you call yourself trying to utilize the Trumpian shtick, which he did. At least Nikki Haley did her own shit. You try to utilize the Trumpian shtick to run against Trump. And you really thought you were going to get away with that. And so Trump unceremoniously dished out Ron DeSantis, an ass whooping politically, sent him away with his tail between his legs. You see him at the Republican National Convention. He wasn't invited to speak, neither was Nikki Haley. And you know how unforgiving Trump is. But in the name of unity, they invited him. Nikki Haley did her own thing. Here's my point. So from a Republican standpoint, I don't care how much you see people falling in line. I want you to pay attention to who did not show up at the Republican National Convention. And I'm not going to name them all. You get the names, namely the Bush dynasty. How many established Republicans are just not jiving with Trump? They don't hide it, and he doesn't hide it. Now that he has had this assassination attempt, and he has delivered the photo of a lifetime, does it dawn on you, President Trump, former President Trump, with that picture and with all of the rhetoric that you have floating around the internet, all the sound bites, all the images, the mugshot that you raise money on, if you did get assassinated, somebody actually could step in, be the Trumpian-like candidate legitimately, and connect to the MAGA base because you're no longer here, and use your name to the cows come. We're going to do this for former President Trump. He was on the right path. He's our guy. Put the picture up, the picture hanging right behind the candidate. Then and only then could anybody successfully move forward in this party without you, because you can't tell me that these established Republicans who are used to things running the old-fashioned way are not pissed off that this person who does not have the political pedigree that they have, this person who does not have the couth, the dignity, all of the things that they prided themselves on, he has none of that, but he runs your party now, and he does it with an iron fist. He threatens you. He makes fun of you publicly. His people knock on your doors and threaten you. His people show up at your offices. This is mob tactics 101, and you can't pay me to believe that these people aren't pissed off about this. If they could get rid of his ass and pimp his image, don't think for 5 seconds they wouldn't. And so that's one side of the equation. The other side of the equation is the obvious: someone or some ones who don't agree with everything that Donald Trump is all about. And so I mentioned J.R. Ewing for a reason in the past. You go back to the old Dallas days, look it up online. It was the whodunit of the century. Who shot J.R.? And young bucks will say, why was that such a big deal? Because everybody hated his ass. And everybody wanted J.R.'s ass out of the way. After this assassination attempt and the photo, they now have the ammunition they need to use Trump posthumously. Successfully, might I add. But the pick gives them all of that. And this is, I got to say, as you go from that straight into the Republican National Convention in Milwaukee, as much as Trump haters hate to hear this, and I am a person who, no bones about it, I don't want to see his ass get in again. Here's what I have to acknowledge. This is no longer, and it wasn't then, but it was on display even more now. This is no longer a campaign. This is a movement. This MAGA thing is a movement. Those fires are a whole lot harder to put out than an elected candidate who is just catching a strong tailwind. This is a movement. And black folk don't get pissed off when I say this. Last time I saw this was with President Obama. That was a movement. And you could feel the energy as it rushed towards the inauguration. It was something in the air. This was bigger than just cast your vote. This shit was life-changing. It was a movement. Trump also mentioned something in his address. He said there was an assassination attempt and the gunman fired, and I'm paraphrasing. I don't remember exactly how he said it. But, no one was trampled. There was no running. People didn't trample and disperse. It's very unusual, very unusual. You think about that. He is absolutely right. Gunshots, people start breaking for the hills. Yes, somebody or somebodies usually get trampled because the stampede is horrendous. These folks didn't go nowhere. You think about that? There's an active shooter. These people didn't go anywhere. They're busy trying to find out where the damn shots are coming from. And when they did, which takes me to another point that I'll unpack in a second, and when they did, they're busy pointing at the gunman. They were not leaving that man's side. Again, you don't have to like former President Trump to acknowledge the fact that there is something way bigger going on. Now, this goes back to the conspiracy. There's active video. Secret Service, y'all got to get this shit right. There's active video with people at the rally saying there's a gunman over there. Hey, man, there's somebody scaling the damn building. Hey, man, this guy is pacing and looking suspicious. How did Trump even take to the stage before they figured out what was going on with that? Now, you put it on Butler Police, and to their credit, they were at least on it. The guy climbed the ladder to confront him and ends up having to jump down off the ladder for fear of his safety. My point is, you had enough information to say, let me radio over, because I am assuming, and I'm thinking I'm correct on this, that you had radio or phone communications going on with Butler Police as you're coordinating this shit, right? Somebody was in a position to say, hey, they pointed out a guy climbing the building, and yes, he did scale the roof. He is on the roof right now. That is something, some Boy Scout troop could have coordinated with their damn walkie-talkies. I'm not trying to be facetious or funny, but that's real talk. Damn, you couldn't just let somebody know, hey, we're getting support, and the shit is credible. He is actually climbing the roof. Stand down till we figure this shit out. And lo and behold, damn, he does have a gun. He did have intentions. No, that was too simple. That sounded too much like high-level security. Hell, that sounds like security 101, not even high level. So you're not going to dodge conspiracy theories. It does look suspicious. Somebody should get fired. All of this is happening right now. That's going to wrap up my take on that. You asked me what I thought about the assassination. There's my thoughts on the assassination. Let me go chew in the back. Next question.
What about President Biden stepping down and endorsing Vice President Harris?
Yeah.
Can you comment on that?
In episode 1 of the briefing room, I said he should step down. I said that if he stepped down and he would steal the mantra of America first and say this is what it really looks like. And I'll be damned, that is what they're running with. What a patriot. This is putting America first. I thought it was needed and necessary, and I gave you all the reasons. You want my 2 cents on that? You can go back to the recording of the first installment of the briefing room. I want to put a couple thoughts on your mind, though, see if you can pick up what I'm putting down. Everybody laments, I being one of them, that the Supreme Court cleared the pathway for President Trump, if he's elected as president, to do some heinous shit and say it's an official act and not be held accountable. But they made the ruling now, today. It's in effect as we speak. And so when you listen to President Biden makes it clear that he wants Supreme Court reform. This shit is getting way too partisan. And it's become so obvious, so compromised, that we need to put term limits on these lifetime appointments. And we need stricter accountability measures, whether it's accepting money, Judge Thomas, or flying flags from your homes, Judge Alito. We just need stricter accountability measures in place. Has it dawned on you, President Biden, that you could, as an official act, say, I'm adding X amount seats because I feel like our court is compromised. I'm putting term limits because I feel like this court is compromised. I'll make the term limits a number so that one or two of you may be terming out in another year or two because I feel like the court is compromised. And you can say, Marcus, this all sounds like fantasy. No. You cleared the way for that. He could do it as an official act and claim this is now a threat to the United States. This is compromised. And a good number of Americans would agree with him. If you're going to give the president, be it Trump, Biden, or whomever else, the power to say, I'm going to do this as an official act, and you don't have shit to say about it because of this ruling. This is something that they probably didn't consider because they're so busy trying to throw their support behind Trump. And because of that, there's no more affirmative action. And because of that, there's no more reproductive rights for women. Because of that, we are slowly but surely looking at eroding DEI initiatives. I even hate to use the term nowadays myself, equity initiatives that should have been a part of America's fabric years ago when they ended slavery and Jim Crow and everything else. You know good and well you got to try to reset this thing. The people that are in these marginalized positions didn't create the shit. You created the shit. And so there has to be measures in place. And when it comes to affirmative action, you shot your own wives and daughters in the foot because no minority group benefits more from affirmative action than white women. But you didn't give a damn about that. You were so busy trying to stick it to marginalized black and brown folk. But when it comes to this particular law, it could really come back and bite you in the ass if that's the way Biden and or Kamala Harris played it. I want you to think about that. But where the handoff is concerned from Biden to Harris, Joe Biden is going to be just fine in terms of history. Joe Biden played second fiddle to the first black president. Now, I don't care what you say. You cannot find me one, I believe, other white man with all of his political experience. I've been in office 30 some odd years at that time. You want me to take a back seat to this black junior senator from Chicago? I ain't doing it. And I think most white men would be like, hell nah, he did it. He bridged that gap. He did play good soldier with Hillary. After Hillary took her lumps and lost to Trump, he came back in, told the line, got Trump's ass out of there for the American people. And he put a black woman on the ticket, a woman of color on the ticket. And now, regardless of why he's doing it, some of the hardcore historians will take a deep dive into why he was old and there was a groundswell and he had this terrible debate performance and then the voices were just growing into a crescendo and they forced him out. Well, there's some truth to that. History won't be bothered with that bullshit. History will say he stepped down for the betterment of the party. And if Kamala Harris actually does get elected, Joe Biden, especially with marginalized folks, especially with black folk. You remember that old calendar that had the image? It was at all of our grandparents' house with Dr. King and both Kennedy boys. And that calendar never moved from that page. It was in every grandparent's kitchen. The new calendar will be Joe Biden by himself in every black person's kitchen across the country. Figuratively and literally, might I add, in some households. Because history will show him as the president who embodied in action all the shit America said they were all about when it comes to people of color, especially black folk, because you got a dark history, pardon the pun, with black folk in this country. He actually has lived it. He's been the bridge that has escorted black folk into mainstream politics at the apex level, especially if Kamala Harris gets in. He is lionized for good. And so, Joe, you're good. Even as you listen to all the comments right now about Joe Biden online, it sounds like they're eulogizing the man. I'm like, all right, y'all, chill out a little bit. He's still here. But people are throwing their flowers at the man. Rightfully so. And just like I said in installment 1, boy, the speechwriter better be on their job for the Democratic National Convention. If you give Joe the right speech with the right tone, and if he fuck around and cries or gets emotional when he gives it, it is a wrap. It is absolutely over. People are going to be like, hell yeah. Hell yeah, where do I sign? I'm down for Kamala Harris and whoever she chooses, I'm down. This is what you call making America great again. I'm telling you, man. Trump blew his moment. Trump's handlers, who have been very good at their job up to this point, tried to use this moment to reshape and soften his image. And it was a good plan, in my opinion. And when he went out there, he read, the teleprompter, and he sounded very somber and conciliatory. He talked about the shooting, and he wouldn't talk about it again. And he went over there and kissed Corey Comparator's helmet, which he should have. It was a great gesture. No jokes on that one. And he told a story. You can see people in the audience getting emotional. He gives shouts out to the Almighty. I shouldn't be here. And they're like, yes, you should. He's like, thank you, but I shouldn't. I shouldn't be here if it weren't for God. I'm like, oh, man, Trump is actually trying to hit this shit out of the park. And then the wheels fell off. I'm like, I knew it. You just couldn't keep it up, could you, Trump? And he devolved into the same old shit. So his moment was missed. They had it. They had the unity. They had the movement. And I still think the movement part is there. But he blew it with the speech. The speech writers for Biden and Kamala Harris, for that matter, but the speech writers for President Biden. Man, if there ever was a time to order Chinese, get you a 6-pack of whatever y'all drink, and double down till 1, 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and write some moving shit, it is now. You have got to hit a home run. When Joe Biden gets feisty, when he gets emotional, It resonates. That part in the debate a while ago when President Trump, says some slick shit about his son, and Joe Biden's like, damn right, I love my son. I mean, it reverberated because that was a father defending his child. That was not a politician. Joe Biden is human in more ways than the average politician. This riding the train back and forth to Washington. And, he's not one of these elites. And if he is, he hides it a whole lot better than everybody else because he's not one of these cats that you see schmoozing in the high and mighty circles, and posing from pictures. For all intents and purposes, Joe Biden has been, at least in the latter part of his political career, the guy who you can just relate to, who feels like genuinely gets the everyday person. If these speechwriters cannot captivate or encapsulate that persona that he has crafted over the years that I believe is very genuine, and a lot of the empathy that he's shown folks from him suffering much, it's made a different kind of person out of him, to the good. It's made him actually the antithesis of Donald Trump. Man, if y'all don't bottle that, shake it up and pour that secret ingredient all over the pages and give him a rousing speech, all of y'all fired. If this isn't a home run, whoever's writing this shit, don't hire him. Kamala, go get new speechwriters, because the right speech can turn this thing upside down on its head. And so I think that they are going the right direction. I applaud Joe Biden for stepping down. I applaud him for immediately endorsing Kamala Harris. I applaud the Clintons for immediately endorsing Kamala Harris. Anxious to see what former President Obama does. He put forth a statement. At least up until the time that I'm recording this, he has not endorsed. If he has, after I've recorded this, then I stand corrected. But the initial statements, he did not endorse. And so we'll see what the situation is. I like where everything is going. Now here's their opportunity to unify. In that first installment, I also talked about what Donna Brazile said. You can't just jump over the vice president and try to get you another candidate. There's only 4 weeks left until the Democratic National Convention. There ain't nobody got time for that shit. She's it. It's who we rocking with. I don't care who you put up there. The check writers, which is what happened with Biden. The people who are writing all the checks that you need in order to get to the finish line, the checkbooks got closed. We ain't writing shit. Y'all got to figure this out. We ain't throwing bad money after good. And so you try to put somebody up against Kamala Harris right now, who you going to get to fund that shit? And what else are you running for after you challenge her? Because I feel like it's political suicide. I love the fact that she's saying I want to earn it. And we know that for all intents and purposes, the goal is to just put her in there. But I think she's doing the right thing by saying, let me burn the midnight oil. Let me get on the phones. The last time I checked, she was on the phone 10 to 12 hours straight. You want to appeal to these delegates. We know that they aren't just given to you. And for some people, even when they know they're going to give it to you, at the very least, they want you to acknowledge, take me on a date, court me, take me to dinner, take me to McDonald's, something, make me feel like you want to at least earn it before I give it up. So she's doing the right thing where that's concerned. I want to talk briefly, though, about the moment and the candidate, because I'm hearing the same conversation that everybody else is hearing. Kamala Harris ain't it. Kamala Harris, I don't really know what that looks like. I'm not mad at her. I think the overwhelming majority I'm hearing is I'm not mad at her and I'm not for her. I really don't know what to make of her because I don't have a whole lot to go on. Of course, the MAGA folk will use, the border thing. She was in charge of the border for a while and she galactically dropped that. We'll do some fact check on that. There really wasn't a whole lot to report on where that was concerned. Where she really found her voice is when Trump gave her the layup and lobbied for Roe v. Wade to be overturned. And this compromised Supreme Court did it. This is where she really found her voice. For the Kamala Harris naysayers, I want you guys to think about a couple of things. Thing number one, she inherits the vast majority of his war chest. She's already getting the endorsements of the largest voices in the party. She's been rolling alongside of this man for the last 4 years. And the most damning part of this argument is she's a part of the fucking ticket. It was Biden-Harris that you voted for. I know some of y'all, but I'm still, I don't know if I can see her as president. You voted for Biden-Harris. Enough with the bullshit. You voted for Biden-Harris. And what that means is if this person gets hit by a bus or just doesn't wake up tomorrow, who the fuck do you think is president? Don't get brand new on the process. And so we know that there's a delegation, delegates involved. We know that the delegates have to give, but y'all know what time it is. She's a part of the ticket. And if she was good enough to endorse via your vote as the number 2 with a man that you knew when he was elected was in his late 70s, you knew he'd be in his mid 80s when he was running for re-election. The hell did you think was going to happen? He didn't physically have to die to be in a situation where I can't do this again. Man's in his 80s. None of this shit is new information to the voters. So if you're at the barbershops and the beauty salons and wherever else that you're hearing this chatter at, well, I'm down with Kamala Harris, but I don't know about X, Y. Miss me with the bullshit. We can talk about all of that when this thing is said and done. Get with it and get in line. The other part is thing number 2. Trump talks a lot of shit. This is not new news. And this is not fake news. He talks a lot of shit. Every time, minus him being bailed out by the damn Supreme Court or by some judge, every time Trump gets in a courtroom and he goes head to head with a sharp prosecutor, I want you to hear me, his ass loses. You know why? Because the evidence does not give a fuck about how funny you think you are. The evidence does not give a damn about how much the Magites eat up every word you say. The evidence could care less how much money you claim you have. His shit has been so raggedy that there is no way in hell you can justify him being your candidate. And good prosecutors get the rare opportunity to shush the noise, isolate the bullshit, and say, okay, now you're going to have to sit there and let me outline the facts for your bitch ass. And then we get to see how you feel at the end of the day. Then we can see how the jury feels. It doesn't matter if you run out there and you grab the mic, I know you are, but what am I? I know you are, but what am I? That shit don't work in court. And when he goes to court, he loses. I won't even pull all the information about court cases that he's lost for his university and for the fucking felon. He loses because on paper, he is a fucking dumpster fire. Enter Kamala Harris. The Democratic Party is seemingly about to take a page out of Cassie's book. Cassie, the singer? Marcus? Why, yes, I'm talking about Cassie. You mean the Cassie with the P. Diddy situation? Why, yes, I'm talking about the Cassie from the P. Diddy situation. Well, how does that apply to this? We're talking about, Trump and Harris and the election and running for president. I'm going to tell you how this shit applies. Everybody was overlooking the leaked information about P. Diddy. It started as a trickle. I heard this about Diddy. Yeah, I heard some of that too. This person comes out. I'm going to step out and give somewhat of an account about what happened with me personally with P. Diddy, Aubrey O'Day, several others. And then this person would say something. And then there'd be all these posts about P. Diddy. And then people are getting bold and you're like, okay. When Cassie's attorney chronologically outlined all of the shit that he did with receipts, put it in an affidavit, and an indictment came forth. When people saw all of this shit in order, aggregated, then and only then they were like, shit, this is bad. So much so that Diddy within 24 hours had them pulled at you, give her the money she's looking for, give her the money she's looking for. It's one thing to have traces and pieces of this shit floating around all over the place. In bars, at dinner parties, online. But when somebody takes the time to build the timeline, to provide names, places, dates, amounts, suddenly that shit clicked. Oh, that's what they was talking about. Back to Kamala Harris. She is a highly skilled prosecutor. And this whole mess started with President Biden fumbling the opportunity to hold the mirror up to Donald Trump in front of America and say, is this really who y'all want to vote for? And we're not talking about the MAGA base, because we've already pointed out the fact that that's a movement. They ain't going nowhere. Come hell or high water, they're there. We're talking about the people in the middle. We're talking about moderate Republicans. We're talking about Democrats who were tempted to sit on the couch, are still tempted to sit on the couch because they're down with the bullshit that I asked you to miss me with, because they don't know about Kamala Harris. Those people are all ears. Those people are like the jury in this last Trump case when he got found guilty of those 34 felonies. Those people are like the millions of people that read the Cassie complaint outlined chronologically and said, whoa, that is a huge block of people. That is the group, love it or hate it, that will arguably decide where this race goes. If you can undress this candidate skillfully, articulately, with receipts, you got a problem on your hands. And ladies and gentlemen, that is Kamala Harris's strength. That's her lane. That's her jam. This is where the sister shines. Add to that the fact that she has hung her hat on being the champion of reproductive rights, on lamenting the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. And you add to that further, she is a member of one of the most active networks of black women in this country. She's an AKA. Add to that, she is an HBCU graduate. If you don't know the black culture, you want to scream bullshit on that doesn't mean anything. Make President Obama an alpha, a Q. Make him a graduate of one of the HBCUs. And I'll give you a president, even though it was an otherworldly groundswell around Obama. You could have ramped that up several notches if he was a member of the Divine Nine, if he was a graduate of an HBCU. And so this is going to look different. White people are going to be like, where does some of this extra energy come from? Those factors they're out there raising money for right now. She is going to take the case about Roe v. Wade straight to his ass. And I think she's going to do it successfully. And let us not forget that there are a lot of moderate and even not so moderate Republican women who, no matter what their husbands are talking about, no matter what the party leaders are talking about, a lot of them are sitting in the background seething like, I am still not down with that shit. You don't get to make that decision for me. I'm down with Trump. I'm not trying to vote for Biden. I'm definitely not trying to go that route. They may not say it to you, but at the bridge party, at the social club, they are whispering to each other, I am not down with this bullshit. And they need to figure that out if they want us to go hard for this. And with Biden, they had a candidate that they felt like, I'm not down. Now you got a woman who's about to articulate their number one beef with their own party. I think this is their worst nightmare right about now. And I am going to be on every word, as I know America will be, when he is face to face with Kamala Harris. I'm waiting on him to say the wrong thing to Kamala Harris, especially if it has strong sexist or racist undertones or overtones, because he's been speaking very overtly these days. He may step in a hornet's nest because he's so used to saying whatever the hell he wants to say with no repercussion. He may step in a hornet's nest if he says the wrong shit, because black folk are about to ride harder for all the reasons I just outlined. I know you got more questions. Nope. We got to do it next time. Going forward, we want to make sure that we can bring you the information that you need right when things happen, even if it's just a brief 2 or 3 minute statement in the briefing room. We want to make sure that we don't put this much time and distance between events. That last one caught us with our pants down a little bit, but here we are, episode 2, and that's our thoughts. We'll see you next time on the briefing room. Buddy Love, take us out of here. Peace.
Please cast your vote. Book 'em a one-way flight to a shithole town in Mar-a-Lago to golf infinite rounds. Reporting live and direct, this the briefing room. Reporting live and direct, this the briefing room.
You are listening to the Public's Voice Media.